They can and will search your phone at the US border with zero warning. No warrant, no suspicion. Thousands of travelers are having their socials, messages, and photos reviewed, including at major airports. Some devices are held for weeks. What rights do you really have? Stay tuned to learn what CBP can legally do and how to fight back. The legal loophole that lets CBP search everything. Imagine landing at JFK after a long international flight. You're groggy, ready to head home, until a Customs and Border Protection (CBP) officer pulls you aside. They say, "We're going to need your phone," they say. "Please unlock it. No warrant, no probable cause, just authority." And legally, they don't even need a reason. This power comes from something called the Border Search Exception, a legal doctrine established by the U.S. Supreme Court. Under normal circumstances, the Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. Police need a warrant to look through your phone. But the Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that the U.S. border is a special zone, where constitutional protections are significantly weaker. In a pivotal 1976 case, United States versus Ramsey, the court upheld warrantless mail searches at the border. Then came United States versus Flores Montano in 2004, affirming that searches of vehicles at the border didn't require suspicion. But it was Riley v. California in 2014 that clarified digital devices are different, at least inland. The court said phones contain the privacies of life and deserve strong protections. But CBP continued searching phones at ports of entry, arguing Riley didn't apply at the border. Fast forward to 2023, the ACLU challenged these warrantless device searches in Al-Assad versus Mayorkas. They argued CBP and ICE violated the Constitution by seizing and searching electronic devices without suspicion. But the federal court disagreed, ruling the government could still conduct basic searches without probable cause and advanced forensic searches with reasonable suspicion. Here's the scary part. Basic still includes opening your texts, emails, WhatsApp threads, and photos. No warrant required. And if your phone is locked, CBP can detain it for up to 5 days without a warrant, sometimes longer, with zero charges filed. So yes, your phone is fair game. And you're not just handing over a device, you're handing over your digital life. 47,000 devices searched. You could be next. Let's get this straight. You don't have to be a criminal, a terrorist, or even suspicious looking to have your phone searched at the border. You just need to be there. And in 2024 alone, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, searched over 47,000 electronic devices at ports of entry. That's more than 5 phones every hour, every single day of the year. Think that's a post-9/11 policy? Not quite. Back in 2015, only about 4,800 devices were searched. But the explosion of international travel, paired with evolving terrorism threats, cybercrime, and frankly, increasing digital surveillance powers, has sent those numbers skyrocketing by nearly 900% in under a decade. And these aren't just random phone flips. Many of these devices are deep scanned using advanced forensic tools like Cellebrite and Graykey, hardware used by law enforcement to pull deleted messages, login tokens, browsing histories, GPS logs, and even metadata buried beneath your Instagram likes. One internal report revealed that CBP pulled complete data extractions from at least 10,000 phones in a single year, most without probable cause. What triggers these searches? Technically, nothing. CBP agents have broad discretion to pull your phone for a basic search without any suspicion. But there are flags: frequent international travel, dual citizenship, Middle Eastern or Latin American stamps, journalistic credentials, or even something as simple as refusing to unlock your phone can trigger further scrutiny. Agents are trained to look for digital demeanor, hesitation, deleting apps, or setting passwords at the gate. Here's the what-if part. What if your phone was taken? What if an agent saw your medical info, business emails, or photos of your children? What if that data was copied and shared, with no warrant, no notification, and no expiration date? It's not a hypothetical, it's happening. And it doesn't matter who you are. In this new surveillance era, you're one border crossing away from handing over your digital life. Real travelers, real devices, real nightmares. It's easy to think, they'd never check my phone, I'm just a tourist. But border device searches aren't just hitting suspected smugglers. They're affecting journalists, students, doctors, software engineers, human rights activists, even U.S. citizens born and raised in Kansas. Take Ismail Ajawi, Harvard freshman from Lebanon. In 2019, he landed in Boston with a valid student visa, only to have his phone and laptop seized at Logan Airport. CBP officers allegedly grilled him for 5 hours, scouring his social media and contacts. Why? One of his Facebook friends had posted political content that CBP didn't like. Despite having done nothing wrong, Ajawi was deported before ever stepping foot on campus. Or Sid Bikanaver, a NASA engineer and U.S. citizen returning from Chile. In 2017, he was detained at Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport. Border agents demanded his phone and PIN, even though it was a NASA-issued government device, potentially containing sensitive research data. He complied under pressure. His phone was taken into a back room and returned 30 minutes later, with no explanation of what was accessed or copied. Then there's photojournalist Ahmed Muthana, who told The Intercept that his equipment was seized at JFK without a warrant. Agents copied his entire hard drive, including interviews with sources in war-torn countries. Muthana said he felt like he had been digitally mugged. Worse, his sources' identities may now be vulnerable, which could cost lives abroad. In 2022, the ACLU filed lawsuits on behalf of 11 travelers, arguing that border searches without warrants violated the First and Fourth Amendments. Yet courts have upheld the government's right to search devices at the border, even if there's no probable cause. The border exception to the Constitution remains in full force within 100 miles of any U.S. border, a zone that includes nearly 2/3 of the American population, and it gets scarier. CBP stores data from device searches in a massive database called TECS, Traveler Enforcement Compliance System, which can be accessed by ICE, FBI, DEA, and even foreign governments. Some data remains stored for up to 15 years. So if you think your deleted messages, private photos, or even encrypted apps are safe, think again. What if your business contacts were copied? What if your photos ended up flagged in a terrorism database by mistake? What if your health records or confidential legal documents were accessed without your knowledge? Courtroom battles and why the law still favors the feds. The courtroom should be where privacy is protected, right? The place where constitutional rights are weighed and balanced. But when it comes to digital privacy at the border, that balance often tips heavily in the government's favor. Take the case of Al-Assad versus Mayorkas, a landmark lawsuit brought by the ACLU in 2017 on behalf of 11 travelers, including a journalist and a NASA employee. They argued that warrantless searches of their phones and laptops violated both the First and Fourth Amendments. One of them had his phone searched twice, once after returning from a family trip. Another, a U.S. citizen, had her phone taken and kept for weeks without any charges. The district court initially sided with the plaintiffs in 2019, ruling that reasonable suspicion was required for advanced searches. But in 2021, the First Circuit Court of Appeals overturned the decision. They declared that both basic and advanced searches at the border remain legal without a warrant, a major win for the Department of Homeland Security. This creates a chilling legal precedent. CBP doesn't need a shred of suspicion to scroll through your phone, your texts, your photos, your DMs. If they want to run an advanced forensic scan, all they need is something vague like a suspicious itinerary or a nervous response. That's it. No judge, no warrant, no oversight. Meanwhile, in United States versus Cano, 2020, a California court ruled that border agents couldn't search a phone's entire contents for contraband without a warrant. But that ruling was narrow and was later weakened by another court's finding that communications apps and cloud-based data could be inspected freely at the border. And then there's Riley v. California, 2014, which famously declared that cell phones are not like wallets or suitcases. They hold the privacies of life and require a warrant to search during arrests. But here's the catch. That rule does not apply at the border. This fragmented patchwork of rulings means one thing. Your rights depend on where you're standing. If you're 101 miles inland, you're protected. If you're at JFK or LAX, you're in a constitutional gray zone. Coming up next, just how far can border agents go once they've got your phone in hand? The answer might shock you. Let's dive into Chapter 5, what Border Patrol can really do with your phone. So, what happens when CBP takes your phone? It's not just a quick glance at your lock screen. The reality is much deeper and much darker. Once your device is in their hands, CBP agents are permitted to conduct what's called a basic search without any suspicion whatsoever. That includes scrolling through your messages, call history, photos, emails, saved documents, and apps. They can also check browser history, social media content, calendar events, and even your Notes app. Yes, even your grocery list is fair game, but it gets more invasive. If an officer develops what they call reasonable suspicion, a term that can be based on little more than nervous behavior, frequent travel, or ethnic profiling, they can escalate to what's called an advanced search. This isn't just scrolling. It involves connecting your phone to Celebrite or Gray Key forensic software, which downloads and extracts data, including deleted files, metadata, encrypted content, and in some cases, access tokens to your online accounts. Here's the kicker. Once your data is copied, it can be stored in the Automated Targeting System, ATS, or TECS databases. These systems are shared with dozens of U.S. agencies, including the FBI, ICE, DEA, NSA, and even some foreign governments through interagency agreements. And your data? It might be retained for up to 15 years. CBP policy claims it deletes data after review, but oversight is minimal. In a 2022 DHS OIG report, it was revealed that CBP agents failed to properly log or secure nearly 80% of the data extractions they performed. No tracking, no audit trails, no clear chain of custody. What if your business secrets were copied? What if you were carrying legal or medical records for a family member? What if your photos, vacation pics, family selfies, innocent screenshots were misinterpreted and flagged? According to documents unearthed by the Brennan Center, one traveler had his phone searched at the border, and his notes on political activism led to increased surveillance at his workplace for months afterward. And it doesn't stop with you. If your phone contains messages or group chats with others, their names, locations, and comments may be scanned and linked to your file. One phone search could quietly implicate dozens of innocent people, none of whom were even crossing a border. This is the quiet expansion of a surveillance state, one device at a time. So how can you protect yourself from this digital exposure? Here's the truth. You cannot stop CBP from taking your phone at the border, but you can control what's on it and what they'll find when they look. Let's start with the most important concept: digital minimization. The fewer personal items on your device, the less damage a search can cause. Travelers, especially journalists, attorneys, and business leaders, are increasingly using travel phones. These are clean devices with no sensitive data, preloaded with only essential apps and contacts. Once through customs, the real data can be downloaded securely via encrypted cloud storage. That might sound extreme, but consider this. In 2022, a Harvard professor's phone was F-lagged because it contained secure communications with foreign academic contacts. The professor was held for hours and never told why. Her phone was later returned but wiped clean. If you can't afford a second device, encrypt your existing one. iPhones with Face ID or Touch ID and Androids with a PIN offer device-level encryption by default. But disable biometric unlock before reaching the border. Why? Because CBP can legally force you to use your fingerprint or face to unlock your device. What they can't do yet is compel you to give up a password or PIN. That's protected under the Fifth Amendment. And if you think airplane mode keeps you safe, think again. Border forensic tools can bypass airplane mode and still access stored files, cached messages, and metadata. In some cases, they even retrieve deleted files and fragments of uninstalled apps. Back up your phone before travel. Then perform a factory reset and reload only the most essential content. Services like Proton Drive, SpiderOak, or even encrypted Google Drive folders can give you cloud access without putting private data in CBP's hands. Also, update your privacy settings. Disable automatic backups from messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal. These backups are often unencrypted and easy to access. Better yet, use encrypted self-destructing messages when traveling near borders. Lastly, always assume your device can and will be searched. That includes wearables, USB drives, laptops, and yes, even your Kindle. In one reported case, CBP flagged a traveler's e-reader because of stored documents related to religious and political groups overseas. You're not just protecting your own privacy, you're protecting the digital footprint of everyone you've interacted with. With that, you've now got a clear picture of what border agents can do, what they already are doing, and how you can push back. Even if it's just through preparation, you're only as safe as what's on your phone. Subscribe now to stay ahead of privacy risks, travel alerts, and the rights you didn't know you lost. Hit like, drop a comment, and don't miss our next guide on digital survival.